Good morning, traders. I am Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Wednesday, September 11th. Markets continue to look for direction this morning following a mixed bag on Wall Street yesterday. The Nasdaq climbed higher to close in the green by 141 points or 0.84%. The S&P 500 also ended in the green, adding 24 points or about 0.5%. The Dow ended in the red, slipping 92 points or nearly 0.25%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm looking at the S&Ps. The S&Ps are down 0.11%, which is incrementally positive because we were down over 0.2%. So we recaptured some of that. So that's kind of, that kind of leads me to kind of think that we might actually be able to, get out of this weakness that we're seeing this morning. Listen, a key event today, obviously, is that inflation report, that CPI report. That's going to come out 1 hour before the opening bell. That's going to be the needle that moves the market today. We're going to have to wait for that report to come out. Other than that, the big news event overnight was really the Harris-Trump debate. While the election is still way off, that's the news cycle. The news cycle is really focused on that. And, you don't want to make a lot of big announcements when you're trying to fight something that's going to be as newsworthy as a presidential debate here in the U.S. One of the big news events that did happen yesterday was, the Fed Vice Chair of Supervision, Michael Barr, because he introduced those new bank capital requirements yesterday, which is positive for the banks because they were at, like 19%, now they're 9%. So that's like a huge benefit. That's very helpful for the big banks. What else do I see? Nippon Steel executive is said to have flown into Washington, D.C. in an effort to save that takeover deal that they're trying to do with U.S. Steel. We'll see. He's going to be meeting with a lot of people just to try and, keep that deal on track. You got to keep an eye on the European markets as that ECB announcement is scheduled for tomorrow. And guess what? They're saying we're looking for a 25 basis point cut tomorrow. So, that's something to keep focused on. We're looking at the overseas action in the DAX, for example. The DAX is up 0.42% this morning. London's up 0.14%. The CAC in Paris is up 0.27%. In Paris, you're seeing, gains in banking and luxury stocks. In London, the manufacturing production in the UK actually fell 1% month over month in July against the forecast of a 0.2% increase. But the key thing is that ECB meeting today and tomorrow when that expected 25 basis point rate cut that is likely to come at the conclusion, which we'll hear tomorrow morning on. We're focused on, the Asian markets, and we saw a sea of red yesterday or this morning in Asia. The Nikkei fell 539 points or 1.49%. The Hang Seng fell 125 points or 0.73%. The Shanghai in China fell 0.82%. China's market just continues to be underwhelmed by, the recent economic data. And, there's the additional factors there, that there's a lack of an effective stimulus program coming out of Beijing, and that's kind of hurting markets. And let's not forget about the trade tensions that are occurring with China and the European and Japan and the U.S. It's not pretty. Hong Kong saw some weakness in energy stocks. Consumer stocks are weak, but in Japan, there's some hawkish comments from a BOJ official. There was some weak manufacturing sentiment data. The yen was gaining, and that's why you saw the Nikkei fall 1.5% overnight. But let's keep an eye on oil. Let's keep an eye on oil. Oil is up over 2% this morning. This is big because oil fell 3% yesterday. It was dropped over 3%. So it is climbing back. It's up 2%, which is positive. The main factors for this morning's move higher is that tropical storm, which is now a hurricane in the Gulf, which is expected to hit landfall today. And we had the API, American Petroleum stockpile estimates. They showed a draw of 2.79 million barrels last week. Remember, last week is the last week of the summer driving season. So Next week, we might not be able to see that added usage of oil. So we got to be careful of that next week. But, oil is moving higher. We're up 2% this morning. So that's good. You got WTI at $67.28 a barrel. You got Brent at $70.63 a barrel. And, but we do have a lot of action happening later today, this morning, Emily.
Bill, and we're going to get to some of that action right here throughout the show. As you mentioned, investors are awaiting the latest read on inflation this morning with that CPI report due out. And in just a moment, we will get to the day's economic events. But before we get there, let's turn to earnings action. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings?
Petco release, that's ticker WOOF, Wolf. They met expectations. They met on EPS and revenue. It was nothing exciting. Stock is down 0.65%. Dave & Buster's play, ticker PLAY. They beat by 28 cents, and they did that on lower revenue. That stock's up 13.36% this morning. Now, I remember yesterday, the put volume was really heavy yesterday, but it turned on Monday, but it turned on Tuesday, and the call volume was well ahead of the put volume. So that looked good. That turned and started looking good going into earnings. GameStop, ticker GME, Grace Michael Edward, they beat by 9 cents, but they did it on lower revenue. GameStop's trading lower by 9.81% this morning. Upcoming, we got Signet Jewelers tomorrow morning, ticker SIG. Their EPS is $1.13. Expected move is 11.21%. We got Kroger, ticker KR, Kilo Richard. Their EPS is 91 cents and with an expected move of 5.81%. And then tomorrow afternoon, we have Adobe, ticker ADBE. Their EPS is $4.53 with an expected move of 7.36% when they release Thursday afternoon, Emily.
Bill, keeping track of those earnings, you're also keeping track of the day's economic data. As we mentioned, that CPI report. Give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to economic events today.
Well, the big one is the consumer price index that's coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. And then at 10:30, we get the EIA oil stockpiles report. And that's the official number. So that's going to be the key one that's going to really move oil. Either it's going to keep it up at these levels or it's going to be able to pull it down. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But the CPI, that's going to be the key report of the day. Expectations are looking for gains of a gain of 0.2% on both the headline and the core. If they come in as expected, the year-over-year headline should slide to 2.6%, from 2.9% in July. So if it's 2.6% in August, that's very beneficial because that shows inflation is ebbing, and this is what the Fed wants to see, and this is one of the last major economic reports before the Fed's meeting. Tomorrow we get the PPI, so that's a key one as well. But the CPI one is going to be the one that's moving the markets this morning, Emily.
And Bill, as soon as that number comes out, you will see it. You'll see it first because you have NewsWare. I am sure you have an alert set up for that. So you're watching this information in real time and not trailing behind following major media outlets, because this is the professional news wire where you gather that information to then publish it. You're also keeping track of other market moving information this morning, things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, other catalysts. You look at your stocks grouped together, your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 18 lower, 11 higher, 1 unchanged. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. Action is mixed. Apple's trading a little off. Tesla's trading a little off. The other ones are just slightly higher. So it's not really convincing, of a directional move. But the Dow stocks being lower, that does have a tendency to kind of influence me to a lower opening, I will say. Looking at some of the news behind the tape this morning, and one of the big stories that I see out there is Amazon, ticker AMZN. They're going to invest, about 8 billion British pounds into the UK to expand their AWS data centers. That's kind of positive. There's still a lot of talk on Apple's release. Goldman Sachs is still working to exit that Apple partnership, though. Goldman Sachs is, they're not good at credit cards and they know it. That's why they're getting rid of those credit cards. Dow Jones 30 stocks and, Goldman's also nearing a deal to transfer the GM credit card business to Barclays. Barclays does that business well. Walmart and Visa are presenting today at the Goldman Sachs Tech Conference. That could be something. JP Morgan, their president, spoke yesterday, ticker JPM, and he said that the street is overestimating how much money the bank would make on interest revenue and underestimating how much money they're going to spend next year. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. Rates are going lower. They're going to make less money on interest rates unless they can, balloon the amount of business that they're doing in terms of loans. And I don't see that happening. In terms of merger news, biggest one is that Goldman Sachs selling the credit card business to Barclays. In terms of guidance, Petco, ticker WOOF, they see Q3 adjusted EPS coming in at a loss of 3 cents or to a loss of 4 cents. Street estimates a loss of 3 cents. Designer Brands, ticker DBI, David Boy India, they lowered their full year 2024 EPS revenue by 20 cents. It's now at 50 cents to 60 cents. It was at 70 cents to 80 cents. In terms of meetings going on, NVIDIA is having a presentation today at the Goldman Sachs Tech Conference. Modine Manufacturing, ticker MOD, Michael Oscar David, they're holding an investor's day today. In terms of catalyst calls, Apollo, ticker APO, Citibank opened up a 30-day positive catalyst watch into Apollo's investors day. That could be something. But that's what I have for you in terms of news in the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
Well, I'm going to go with Pfizer, ticker PFE, Paul Frank Edward. I mean, there's this big European cancer conference that starts on Friday. And, Pfizer's, set to, highlight its cancer portfolio there. So I think we're going to see some action there. You look at yesterday's call volume, you had 48,572 calls versus 24,269 puts. That's like 2 to 1. That's pretty darn good. Open interest is negative though, 1,383,000 versus 1,546,000. But I'm looking at yesterday's. That's more inclusive of a indication of a beat for a play today. Major brokers are positive. It's like I do see some price targets being raised. That's nice. But for me to get into this one, I gotta tell you, my number is $1 away from the bid price right now. I'm at 28.75. I need to see some weakness here. I do think it can rally into this conference because, that they will be highlighting that cancer portfolio of theirs. But, the conference doesn't start till Friday, so I need to get a discount today. I do think we're going to get some weakness in the market, so I do think there's going to be an opportunity for the stock to move a little lower, and that's what I'm going to be buying. My number is 28.75, but that's what I have for you in terms of my pick of the day, Emily.
Pfizer, it is today. We will follow that along with you. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day, so stick with us. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our Hot Off the Press segment. Bill, take it away.
U.S. Treasuries could benefit from a fast Fed rate cuts. Okay, yeah, that's true. STLA, Stellantis to invest over $406 million in 3 Michigan facilities. Wells Fargo has a signature picks list, Shopify and Spot, SHOP and SPOT were added to that list. Novo Nordisk, stocks trading higher today, ticker NVO. They say their weight loss drug is safe and effective in children as young as 6. Piper's having a growth conference today. Ticker CAVA, Cava, and DPZ, Domino's Pizza. They're going to be speaking at that conference today. GSK, Glasgow herpes vaccine study failed to meet primary objective. John Deere, ticker DE, David Edward, SEC charges Deere with FCPA violations for units role in a Thai bribery scheme. Ticker LUV, Larry Uncle Victor, Southwest Airlines overhauls its board due to pressure from Elliott management. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off today, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Citibank. Sort of like the markets, bank stocks were a mixed bag yesterday. Yesterday, Citigroup did announce the resignation of their chief accounting officer and controller. You did mention during your NewsWare alerts that there were some cautious comments from JP Morgan yesterday that sort of weren't so great for financial stocks. But on the flip side of that, you did tell us all the way back in your opening about the Fed's Michael Barr introducing those new bank capital requirements, which were positive for bank stocks. So again, sort of a mixed bag. C was able to work its way back from some lows. So how did your call work out?
Well, I made money on the trade. That's what's important. I mean, the stock opened up at 58.89, but then, after those JP Morgan comments, it fell all the way down to 56.69. I mean, that was the opportunity to start, really looking at the stock. Now, I honestly, I didn't get in until it was at 57.95, and I got in at 57.54, and I wrote it to 58.12 from my 1%, which was a good trade. But the stock traded at, closed at 57.95, which wasn't great, but those JP Morgan, comments really did shake it. And, while I wasn't expecting his comments to be so negative, I was just thinking that these stocks would rally off of the Michael Barr news. But, the JP Morgan ones, were much more indicative of the sector. So, that's why we did see some weakness. But sometimes those weaknesses are opportunities when you can get in, during a sell-off. And that's what I did yesterday, and I made money on it, so I can't complain. But, it didn't move off the opening price, but, it wasn't an earnings play. I mean, it was a volatility play. And when you're doing volatility plays, you really got to be careful with that opening, with that your entry price. And I made a little money, so I was happy.
You were able to ride the wave there of some competing news items yesterday, grabbing C at a discount and getting your 1%. So we will call that a win, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Pfizer pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.